Well, just comment on the Tennessee game. We really played well in the first half of the game. Did a lot of good things in the first half. I think in the second half we lost our intensity a little bit and probably didn't play quite as well. And I think there's lessons to be learned in that for something like this week. I think it's important to stay focused and keep your intensity. Just because we don't have a game this week, there's a lot of things that we need to do to improve and get better as a team. The message is just because we don't have a game, you got to stay disciplined in everything you do. Personally, do what you're supposed to do in school, and when you go on the football field, you got to go to work to do what you need to do to improve as a player. So just because we don't have a game doesn't mean you change, anything about how you think and what we need to do to, get better as a team. So, Dion Ballou was in a black jersey today, didn't do much in practice, and, that's really by our choice. This injury that he's had to his toe has been lingering, so maybe an extra day or two's rest, might help him, heal up a little bit. Maybe he can sustain a little bit better, when we come back. Jostin is fine. Brandon Ivory's fine. I don't think we have, anybody else that really has, any major issues. I think some of the focus this week is, the guys that play a lot of plays, maybe don't need quite as many reps this week as some of the guys who we need to try to develop so that they can get a few more reps, so maybe we can get them closer to being able to play winning football and have a role on the team in some regard, whether it's on special teams or however it might be. So that's kind of the goal and purpose of what we're trying to do this week. We make a list on offense, defense, and special teams, and every individual coach of things that we need to improve on. And, our practice reps, our meeting time sort of reflect, the emphasis of those things so that we can get better at some of those things.
Just want to looking back at Saturday's game, what you thought of Cyrus Jones, and I guess how is Bradley Sylvie doing after missing this past week's game?
Well, Bradley was able to do a little bit of stuff in practice. I wouldn't say he's 100% by any stretch of the imagination. I think those two guys are in competition. And, when Bradley gets back, we'll evaluate how he is and see who's playing the best and who we think will give us the best chance to play well, in the next game. So, hopefully by, the end of the week, Bradley will be able to go and be 100%, and we'll be able to start making that evaluation.
Coach, given all the distractions that you've had this season, from the injuries to the suspensions, the investigations, do you feel this is one of your better coaching jobs that you've done, as well as you've been able to keep this team focused?
Not really. I mean, I don't look at it that way. I don't think some of the things that you all think are distractions that you like to keep a tally of and think that's the only thing that's important really is the issue. The issue is we have a program here where we require people to do things a certain way, to buy into doing things a certain way, whether it's personally, academically, or athletically. All right? And if a guy doesn't do that, just like my children, your children, anybody's children out there, you try to find a way to change their behavior. And if you're going to punish them in any way, it should be something significant to them that's going to change their behavior. So if not playing is what it takes to do that, then, everybody should look at this like, wow, these guys are all doing better now because, they weren't allowed to play in the game, and now they're doing really, really well. So that's not really a negative thing to me. It's not really a distraction, to me. I think every team you have to expect, with as many guys as we have, that you're going to have some guys that have some issues, whether they're academic, personal, football-wise, whatever it is. And I think that, the more leadership that you have on the team, the more maturity your team has, maybe the less likely you will have some of those issues. But we haven't had a lot of issues here with guys that play. We haven't had a lot of issues with guys that we're really counting on. And a lot of the guys are young guys that just need to learn. And I think sometimes the best way to learn is to have an experience. And sometimes when you make a mistake, that's the best time to teach. So there's been some good lessons learned, so I think that that's a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm really pleased with the way the team is responding and, you know, how we've sort of played the last month, and hopefully we can continue to build on that momentum when we get back to playing next week.
Amari Cooper joined Twitter last week to a little bit of fanfare. I was wondering what your social media policy is for your players, and that one was fake too.
When he started wanting to delete the fake one.
Yeah,
Just so you know.
yeah. His real
Started it to delete the fake one.
is.
It's very confusing.
But I'm wondering what your social media policy is for players, and if you've ever considered joining Twitter yourself.
No, I don't. I've never considered joining Twitter, nor do I know why anybody would, but, you know, there's a lot of people that do, and I guess I'm one of the ones in the minority. But, you know, our policy is we don't restrict players in terms of whatever they do. We do monitor those players that have Twitter because we have a rule that we're really not supposed to put any information out about our team, you know, things that are internal to our family. And we don't want any guy here not to create positive value in himself and his image with anything that he might put in social media, on social media. So we monitor for that reason, and we have people come and speak to players and show them examples of images that are created by things that people put on Twitter, so that we're hopeful that they see that this is not the image that they want to create for themselves, and, you know, and anything that represents, you know, our team. So that's pretty much our policy. When we have issues, we address them, but we don't have anything that restricts players from having Twitter.
You talked a lot about the offensive line's improvement. I'm wondering, since day one, has the biggest improvement been individual guys, chemistry, or just a combination of everything?
No, I think it's probably a little bit of a combination of all the above. I think, you know, some guys are playing with a little better technique. I think the chemistry's better. I think the communication's better. I think the trust in the communication is better. I think the confidence in each other is better. And I think that just comes from guys playing together. And, you know, we have improved. I think when guys have confidence, that helps, you know, their improvement. So I think it's kind of a combination of all those things.
And a follow-up on that, whether it's internal or external, do you think those guys were feeling any pressure to live up to kind of last year's group? Was that an issue at all?
It's not for many of us. I mean, there's nobody in this organization that ever makes any comparisons to, you know, another team last year. You know, we just want those guys to be as good of players as they can be, play to their full potential, do it on a consistent basis. That should be their expectation. I think they know it's our expectation, and there's no comparison to anybody but their best performance.
As we hit the stretch run here for AJ's last year, I'm wondering if you could kind of reflect on what he's meant to the program.
Well, you know, I've commented many times on, you know, the great job that AJ's done in the program from the time he was a freshman here, the way he's always contributed in a positive way in whatever his role was, how he's always learned from the experiences that he had, whether it's when he started on scout team, when he was a backup for a whole year and didn't get to play much, and then ever since he's been a starter, you know, he's certainly, you know, improved dramatically. His leadership is something that has been a tremendous asset to our team and our offense. His performance has been as good as any quarterbacks in the country in terms of his production, his accuracy, the consistency that he's played with. You know, I can't say enough good things about how he's done, and I think his record, you know, pretty much speaks for itself in terms of the success that he's had, you know, as a starter here. And I think that's, in the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And he's always represented the program externally in a first-class way. whether it's community service, whether it's helping other people, whether it's, his image and how he's reflected the principles and values of the organization, I think have been absolutely stellar.
Along those lines, C.J. Mosley, his time here is winding down as well. He was nominated for another award, just his play and his career.
Well, I don't think this is, like, should be the farewell speech for guys that have, quite a few more games to play. But, C.J. Mosley has been a fantastic player since he was a freshman. Again, whatever his role was, at first he just played in nickel situations and was a very productive player. He's got probably as much of a competitive attitude as anybody that I've ever coached in terms of the way he practices every day, the effort that he gives on the field, the intensity that he plays with. There was an interception when Dion Ballou intercepted a pass. I said this, I think, yesterday maybe. I don't know. But, we had 4 guys get blocks. He got 3 blocks on the interception. And then there was 3 other guys that got 1 block. He got 3 blocks. So, I'm talking about totally unselfish, really a good leader, does a great job of taking the responsibility of, making all the calls on defense and setting the defense for us. And his production and his performance has been phenomenal, actually. And you can't find a better person. He's a great student. Couldn't ask for a better representative of the team, the university, his family. Just a great person all the way around.
Yeah, Coach, with LSU obviously coming up, wanted to look back at the 2011 game and ask you about Coach Belichick coming. Did you ask him? Did he ask you? How did that come about? And then second, that loss, how did that lead to what has happened since at Alabama?
I don't really understand Coach Belichick coming. What do you mean? Yeah, Robert Kraft came to the game. Coach Belichick has his own games. So I'm not sure which game we're talking about. Is it that we lost here 2 years ago, not last year? Well, they got a good football team, and their players really play hard, and they compete, and they got a lot of grit, and they don't give in. And when you compete against them, you're going to have to finish the game and play for 60 minutes in the game, and it's going to be a difficult game. And I think every game that we've had with them has been a difficult game that, comes down to 2 or 3 plays in the game that, make a difference in the game. And I think when you're playing in games like that, you got to play every play in the game, because you never know when those 2 or 3 plays are going to come up. That's how their players are playing. That's how our players are playing. And, most of the time when you look back on it, you say, well, we made a mistake here, a mistake there, and it was really costly. So, in that game, as I recall, we had the ball inside the 25-yard line like 6 times and scored, 6 points. So, didn't make field goals, didn't finish drives in the red zone, and, you got to give their team a lot of credit for those stops. But, when you look back on it and you say, if we'd have done things a little differently in some of those situations, maybe the outcome would have been different. But, we learned a lot of lessons from those games, and hopefully the next time we play them better because of it.
I just want to ask you about your volunteer offensive line coach, Pee Wee from Grand Bay. We're going to have a profile about him. Just what is his phone calls, what do they mean to you? How do you enjoy that kind of banter you guys have every week?
Well, I've been here for 7 years, and we have a radio show every game. So however many games we've had, that's how many times Pee Wee's called in. Because we've never had a radio show where he doesn't call in. Start with that. All right, and he always wants to talk about the line play, the offensive line. And he's pretty diplomatic in the way he sort of makes his point about what he's not happy about or what he thinks we need to improve on, and also very complimentary when he thinks things are being done to his liking. So I kind of respect that, and I kind of respect him. And I don't think he's just anybody calling in. I think he has a legitimate interest and does look at things very closely and analytically and knows a little bit about it, to be honest with you, based on some of the questions that he's asked. And I kind of look forward to talking to him. I've never met him, but I always look forward to talking to him.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.